The email glowed on my screen like a radioactive confession, each word burning into my brain as the truth became undeniable. Jordan, my best friend of 8 years, had been methodically destroying my career while smiling to my face every single day. My hands trembled against the keyboard as the betrayal crushed the air from my lungs, the office around me suddenly silent except for the thundering of my own heartbeat. I met Jordan during freshman orientation at MIT. Both of us were small-town kids with big dreams, standing awkwardly at the edges of social gatherings until we found each other at the engineering club mixer. I remember the day so clearly, the way he laughed at my terrible jokes about differential equations, how he stayed up until 3 a.m. talking about building the next revolutionary tech company. It felt like finding the brother I never had. "Man, Ethan, we're going to take over the world someday," he'd said, raising his plastic cup of cheap beer in our dorm room that first semester. You and me all the way to the top. We were inseparable through those 4 years. Late nights in the computer lab, covering for each other during tough breakups, celebrating job offers together. When Tech Vision Inc. recruited both of us right after graduation, it felt like destiny. Two best friends starting at the same company, ready to climb the corporate ladder side by side. Those early days at Tech Vision were everything we dreamed of. We shared a small apartment to save money, carpooled to work, and spent weekends coding side projects we swore would make us millionaires. My mom used to call us twins separated at birth whenever she visited. "You two finish each other's sentences now," she'd laugh, bringing homemade cookies to our cramped living room. I still have this photo on my desk, Jordan and me at the company's 3rd anniversary party, arms thrown around each other's shoulders, grinning like we'd conquered the world. That was right after our first big project success, when we stayed up 3 days straight to fix a critical software bug. Our boss had called us the dynamic duo in front of the entire department. "We're going to run this place someday," Jordan had whispered as we clinked champagne glasses, and I believed him with every fiber of my being. The years flew by. We moved into our own places eventually, started dating seriously. Jordan was the best man at my wedding to Rachel. When our daughter Lily was born, he was the first person I called after my parents. Uncle Jordan brought her a tiny programmer's onesie and promised to teach her coding before she could walk. Every Friday for years, we'd meet at O'Malley's pub after work. Same booth, same order, whiskey neat for him, IPA for me. We'd talk about everything: project challenges, relationship troubles, dreams for the future. The bartender started preparing our drinks the moment we walked in. When the operations director spot opened up, Jordan said one night about a year ago, swirling his whiskey, "You should go for it, man, you'd be perfect." I remember feeling this wave of gratitude wash over me. "You think that's been my target for years?" "Absolutely," he'd said, raising his glass. "And when you get it, don't forget about your best friend down in the trenches." I'd laughed, completely missing the shadow that crossed his face. "As if I could. When I get there, I'm pulling you up with me. That's always been the plan." How could I have missed it? The way his smile didn't reach his eyes, how he changed the subject so quickly. All those years, I thought we were building something together, but Jordan had been measuring himself against me, turning our friendship into a competition I didn't even know I was part of. The irony cuts deep now. I spent 15 years trusting someone who saw me as nothing but an obstacle to overcome. And I never saw it coming, not until that fateful email appeared in my inbox, accidentally CC'd to me instead of our department head, the one where Jordan methodically outlined all the ways I was underperforming and why he was the obvious choice for the promotion we both wanted. I never thought I'd become the kind of person who keeps secrets from his best friend. Yet there I was, sitting across from Jordan at O'Malley's, nursing my IPA while he talked excitedly about the upcoming operations director position. My stomach churned with each word he spoke. 2 weeks earlier, I'd been working late, bleary-eyed from staring at quarterly reports. A notification pinged a new email. I almost ignored it until I saw the subject line, concerns about Ethan's team performance. My own name caught my attention. It was from Jordan, addressed to Sandra, our VP of Development, but I was somehow CC'd. Probably a mistake. As discussed, I've compiled a list of incidents where Ethan's leadership has been questionable at best, the email began. My heart rate spiked as I scrolled through a methodical takedown of projects I'd led over the past year. Projects Jordan had praised to my face. The Keller account issues weren't simple misunderstandings as Ethan claimed, but fundamental oversights that I had to quietly correct before the client noticed, he wrote. I've attached the original code with his errors highlighted, along with my fixes that salvaged the relationship. I sat frozen, my coffee growing cold beside me. The Keller account? Jordan had volunteered to help with that project when I was taking care of Rachel during her difficult pregnancy. He told me everything went smoothly. The email continued for paragraphs, each one a knife twist. While Ethan has certain technical strengths, his management style has created a toxic environment. 3 team members have privately expressed interest in transferring if he receives a promotion. Names were listed. People who smiled at me every day. People who had dinner at my home, who held my daughter Lily and brought her birthday presents. I believe the operations director role requires someone who can unite rather than divide the department. I'm prepared to present a comprehensive transition plan should you consider me for the position instead. I read it 7 times, searching for some explanation other than the obvious. Maybe this was a joke, a draft he never meant to send, but the meticulousness of it dated incidents, attached documentation, private conversations recounted this was calculated, premeditated. In the bathroom at O'Malley's, I splashed water on my face staring at my reflection. The man looking back at me had shadows under his eyes from 2 weeks of sleepless nights. I'd said nothing to Jordan about the email. Instead, I'd started paying attention. Really paying attention. When I returned to our booth, Jordan was checking his phone, his face illuminated by the screen's glow. He looked up with that familiar smile. "Hey, did Matthews ever respond about those projections?" he asked casually. I nodded, sliding back into my seat. Yet this morning, he loved the approach. "That's great, man," Jordan said, raising his glass. "Your idea was solid." The lie rolled off his tongue so easily I almost doubted myself. It hadn't been my idea. It had been Sarah's from my team. I'd given her full credit in the meeting, with Jordan sitting right there. Now he was writing history in real time. "Hey, you okay?" Jordan's brow furrowed with practiced concern. "You seem off tonight." I forced a smile. "Just tired. Lily's been having nightmares." "Poor kid," he said, signaling for another round. "Listen, about the operations thing, I heard they're making the decision next month." "Yeah?" I took a long pull of my beer. "You know I'm gunning for you, right? Nobody deserves it more," Jordan said, his eyes holding mine with a sincerity that would have fooled me 2 weeks ago. That night driving home, I pulled over when the tears finally came. Not sad tears, rage tears. Hot and sudden. 15 years of friendship, and all along, I'd been nothing but competition to overcome. Back at home, I kissed sleeping Lily's forehead and crawled into bed beside Rachel. She stirred, wrapping an arm around me. "Good night with Jordan," she murmured sleepily. I stared at the ceiling in the darkness. Yeah, the usual. That night I made a decision. I wouldn't confront Jordan, not yet. First, I needed to understand how deep this betrayal went. I needed evidence. I needed time. The next morning, I started a secure folder on my personal drive. I named it Project Truth. Inside, I saved a screenshot of that first Downing email. It would be the first piece of evidence in what would become my most meticulous project yet. For the first time in 15 years, I looked at my best friend and saw a stranger. And that stranger had no idea what was coming. My heart pounded against my ribs as I stepped into the grand ballroom of the Westfield Hotel where our annual shareholders' meeting was taking place. The room buzzed with executives in tailored suits, the air thick with expensive cologne and ambition. At the front, a podium stood prepared, the company logo gleaming under spotlights. I spotted Jordan immediately. How could I miss him? His confident posture, that practiced smile as he worked the room, shaking hands with board members. My so-called friend looked immaculate in his new charcoal suit probably purchased specifically for this occasion. His moment of triumph. "You ready for this?" Sarah whispered beside me. One of the few team members who'd figured out Jordan's game months ago. "As I'll ever be," I replied, patting the flash drive in my pocket for the 100th time. The CEO, MS Harrington, tapped the microphone and the room settled into respectful silence. Before we dive into quarterly reports, I'd like to address something we're all excited about. After careful consideration, I'm thrilled to announce our new operations director. I barely heard the rest as she called Jordan's name. The room erupted in applause. I clapped mechanically, watching him stride forward with that humble yet confident expression he'd perfected over years. My stomach churned with acid as memories flashed through my mind late nights helping him move into his first apartment, being best man at his wedding, holding his first child in the hospital. All destroyed by ambition. "I'm honored and humbled," Jordan began, his voice carrying that perfect note of emotion. "This company has been my home for 8 years, and I promise to bring the same dedication to this role that I've always—" I stood up. The movement itself was enough to draw attention in that carefully choreographed environment. Jordan faltered mid-sentence, his eyes finding mine. For a breathless moment, I almost sat back down. The enormity of what I was about to do crashed over me like a wave. This wasn't just career suicide, this was burning a 15-year friendship to ashes in the most public way possible. Then I remembered Lily's birthday party last month. Jordan had shown up late, gift in hand, hugging me fiercely while whispering, "Always in your corner, brother." That same night, he'd emailed Sandra suggesting I was experiencing personal issues affecting judgment. With steady hands, I connected my laptop to the display system at my table. The projector hummed to life. Before we continue, I said, my voice surprisingly steady, "Wouldn't the board like to know how our candidate actually achieved these impressive results?" The silence that followed was absolute. Miss Harrington's eyes narrowed, not with anger but with curiosity. "Ethan, this is hardly the time." Jordan started, but I was already pulling up the first email. This is an email Jordan sent to Sandra 3 months ago taking credit for the Keller account recovery, I explained, my voice growing stronger. And this is the timestamp showing my original solution sent to the team 2 days earlier. I clicked through methodically. Here is Jordan telling 3 separate executives that my team was underperforming, while simultaneously reassigning our strongest members to his projects. With each new slide, Jordan's face grew paler. Whispers rippled through the crowd. I felt strangely calm now, like I was watching myself from a distance. And finally, I said, pulling up the original email that had started everything, here's Jordan explicitly outlining his strategy to undermine me for this promotion, sent accidentally to me through a CC mistake. Jordan lurched forward. Ethan, you're taking everything out of context. We've been friends for... Friends? My voice cracked for the first time. You came to my home while Rachel was in the hospital. You held my daughter and promised to cover for me. Then you turned around and told management I was neglecting projects. The rage I'd contained for months finally broke through. You weren't building yourself up, Jordan. You were tearing me down. That's not ambition, that's betrayal. The room seemed to hold its collective breath. Jordan stood frozen at the podium, his carefully constructed world crumbling around him. Then Ms. Harrington did something unexpected. She nodded slowly, almost like she'd been waiting for this moment. Mr. Davis, she addressed Jordan with icy formality, please step down and wait in my office. As security approached to escort him out, Jordan's eyes locked with mine one last time. Not with hatred as I'd expected, but with something worse, recognition. In that moment, he knew I'd seen the real Jordan, the one hiding behind the mask of friendship all these years. As he was led away, Ms. Harrington turned to me. Ethan, I've suspected something wasn't right for months, but I needed someone with the courage to bring evidence forward. She gestured to the now empty podium. I believe we were in the middle of announcing our new operations director. As the room buzzed with shocked whispers, I felt a strange lightness wash over me. The truth was finally out. I'd expected this moment to feel triumphant, but instead, a hollow emptiness spread through my chest. Ms. Harrington's words hung in the air. I believe we were in the middle of announcing our new operations director. Before I could process what was happening, she gestured for me to approach the podium. My legs moved mechanically as executives parted to let me through. This wasn't how I'd imagined this moment, not in my wildest revenge fantasies. I reached the podium, still warm from Jordan's presence, when a familiar figure burst through the double doors. Wait. The voice cut through the murmuring crowd like a knife. My blood turned to ice. Rachel. My wife, who was supposed to be at her conference in Boston. She strode down the center aisle, her face unreadable. The room fell silent again, all eyes darting between us like spectators at a tennis match. Rachel, what are you? I started, but she held up her hand. Don't, she said, reaching the front of the room. You need to see this first. She pulled out her phone and connected it to the system, replacing my damning evidence with a new set of emails. My stomach dropped as I recognized my own account. While you were building your case against Jordan, Rachel said, her voice eerily calm, you became obsessed. You started cancelling therapy sessions our daughter needed. You missed her recital last month. Do you even remember that? Her memory flashed Lily's disappointed face as I promised to make it up to her, my laptop open to files documenting Jordan's betrayal. Rachel continued, scrolling through a calendar filled with red X marks. 73 family commitments you've broken in 6 months, Ethan. 73. The room seemed to tilt as she pulled up one final email from my doctor to Rachel. Your blood pressure is dangerously high. The insomnia, the weight loss. You're killing yourself for this revenge. I gripped the podium to steady myself, suddenly aware of how paper-thin my skin felt, how the fluorescent lights burned my sleep-deprived eyes. Ms. Harrington stepped forward. Ethan, I meant what I said about your courage and integrity in your work, but I think what your wife is trying to tell you is that there's more at stake here than a promotion. The realization hit me with crushing force. In my single-minded pursuit of justice, I'd committed my own form of betrayal against the people who actually loved me. Jordan's actions were inexcusable, Rachel said softly, now standing beside me. But revenge has taken enough from our family already. In that moment, staring at the evidence of my obsession, I understood the crueler twist of fate. I had become so focused on exposing Jordan's betrayal that I'd failed to see how the darkness had begun to consume me too. The silence in that conference room was deafening as Rachel's revelation hung in the air. For 6 months, I'd been a man possessed, and now everyone knew it, including me. I think we should take a short recess, Ms. Harrington announced, her voice gentle but firm. The executives filed out, leaving just Rachel, Ms. Harrington, and me. Ethan, Ms. Harrington said the position is still yours if you want it. Jordan's actions were inexcusable, regardless of your method, but perhaps you need some time. I nodded mutely as she left us alone. Rachel's hand found mine, and for the first time in months, I truly felt it. I'm so sorry, I whispered, my voice cracking. I became something else. You became Jordan, Rachel said quietly. Fighting fire with fire until you couldn't see yourself through the smoke anymore. That night, I sat in Lily's darkened bedroom, watching her sleep. Her recital program was still pinned to her bulletin board, the date circled in hopeful red marker. I remembered the text I'd sent her that night stuck at work, big project, Daddy's so sorry, while I was actually compiling evidence against Jordan. I missed so much, I whispered to no one. 2 days later, I sat across from a mess, Harrington in her office sliding a folder across her desk. "What's this?" she asked. "My terms for accepting the position," I replied. "Flexible hours for parents, mandatory vacation time, a company therapist, and this." I pointed to the last item, a mentorship program to help people advance without stepping on each other to get there. She smiled, understanding dawning in her eyes. "Jordan took something from you, didn't he? Something more than just credit for your work." "He made me believe success and humanity couldn't coexist," I admitted. "I'd like to prove that theory wrong." A month into my new role, I received an email that stopped my heart. From Jordan Parker. Subject: "Can we talk?" We met at a coffee shop downtown. Jordan looked diminished somehow, the swagger replaced by something I recognized all too well, the hollow look of a man who'd lost himself. "I'm not here to apologize," he said immediately. "Well, not just to apologize. What I did was wrong, but what I want to know is, how did you know?" "Know what?" "That I was sabotaging you. You started gathering evidence exactly when I began undermining you. How?" I sipped my coffee, remembering that fateful day. "I didn't. I was going to recommend you for the promotion." The color drained from his face. "What?" "I thought you deserved it more. I was building a case for you, not against you. Then I found that first email, and everything changed." The irony hung between us like a physical thing. Jordan laughed bitterly. "God, we're both such fools." I corrected. "I'm trying not to be one anymore." 6 months after that day in the conference room, I tucked Lily into bed, having made it home in time for dinner every night that week. "Daddy," she murmured sleepily, "are you still sad about your mean friend?" I considered this. "No, sweetheart, I'm grateful to him, actually." "That's weird," she yawned. "Why?" "Because sometimes we need to see the worst in ourselves before we can be our best." Later, Rachel found me on the porch swing, staring at the stars. "Penny for your thoughts," she said, nestling against me. "I was just thinking about Jordan," I admitted. "He's working at Meridian now, smaller position, fresh start." "Do you miss him?" she asked carefully. "I miss who I thought he was," I replied. "But I don't miss who I became trying to beat him." Rachel squeezed my hand. "The darkness looks good on some people, never on you, Ethan. Your light was always your strength." As we sat there, I realized the hollow feeling in my chest had finally filled with something better than revenge perspective. Jordan had lost a job. I had nearly lost myself. In the pursuit of justice, I'd almost sacrificed everything that actually mattered. The promotion was just a title. But being the man my family deserved, that was a real achievement, one that no betrayal could ever take away. I never realized revenge could be so hollow until I'd tasted it fully. What began as righteous anger had nearly consumed everything I valued: my family, my integrity, my humanity. In fighting Jordan's darkness, I'd allowed that same shadow to eclipse my own light. The real victory wasn't exposing his betrayal or claiming the promotion. It was reclaiming myself from the vengeful stranger I'd become. Success means nothing if you sacrifice your soul to achieve it. Sometimes I still feel that pull toward darkness when I remember those months of deception. But then I look at Lily's sleeping face or feel Rachel's hand in mine, and I'm anchored back to what matters. The truth is, we all have the capacity to become what we hate most. My greatest achievement wasn't bringing Jordan to justice, it was finding my way back from the edge when revenge had nearly pushed me over. Some battles aren't worth winning if you lose yourself in the fight.